to take other people's ideas musically and lyrically, melodically, and make something great out of it as a producer, then you're only as good as the last record you create. So if you continue to strive beyond where you started, and you're always getting better and better at your craft, and you're learning how to streamline the process, and you're learning how to get your hands dirty and take risks, so that your product ultimately that comes out every time is going to be bigger and better than where it started, or where you first thought it might begin, and the expectations that you had as a result. So when you're sort of lucky like me, in the sense that you have been exposed because you had to, you know, I certainly wasn't born with no silver spoon in my mouth, and I certainly wasn't given any specialised opportunities to come under the wing of some great entity or whatever to learn the tricks of the trade. I learned it all for myself, and I made so many mistakes along the way, and I repeated a lot of those mistakes, which somewhat made me feel, you know, I was humiliated and frustrated and thought, why is this happening? And why can't I seem to get over that initial hurdle? And I kept hitting certain brick walls. And I realized very, very sort of later on in the piece that I wasn't the problem. The problem is that my expectation wasn't being met by those around me, because to be successful in the music industry in this new music economy, 2006, you can't do it on your own. You have to have other people. You have to build what we call the executive team. And that team consists of all the little ingredients that you put in a stew that, when it's combined, creates something really tasty, really fresh, and, you know, quite unique. So when I finally realized that it was the way that my expectations weren't being met by other people, that's when I realized that I didn't need them, that they were more part and parcel of what I had to do, but they weren't the reason why I was doing it. So I learned about the whole concept of subcontracting, bringing in people that were integral to a particular part of the equation, you know, not trying to be at every photo shoot, not trying to be there when things were being written, not trying to be there when artwork was being created, not trying to be there when songs were rehearsed, not trying to be there at every live show, which I was in the beginning, because I felt that in order to maintain my control, I had to be part of everything. And now, in my 40s, I've realized it's not necessary. That there are people that are, I suppose, better equipped and somewhat better suited to those particular tasks, and should be given the freedom and the opportunity to be able to make them great for themselves, which in turn benefits you, because you're the one that instigates it. So a rule of thumb that I would like to convey to everybody out there is that don't be too concerned if your expectations, your great idea that you have, isn't being met by those around you, because you're an individual. That person next to you, while they're still in your framework, in your game plan, they're not you. So they have their own ideas, and everybody would like to be able to, you know, bring what they want to do to the fore to make the picture greater. So let other people in. Don't think that you can do it all yourself. Don't automatically assume that every single person out there that you're going to meet in the business is a shark, is a charlatan, is out to take advantage of you. And this will hopefully, as we talk more, explode the myth about what it is that a record company does. You know, the record company, in its most simplest and most purest form, takes product that you've created and brings it to the masses. That's it. There's nothing more. You don't know every radio programmer, you don't know every media contact, you don't know every magazine editor, you don't know every online or internet radio streaming service, you don't know every iPod network. There are those out there that have made their whole business structure based on having that knowledge. And that is what you buy into when you sign to a label. That they have greater knowledge than you and they can take what you've created to another level. So hopefully that will explain a little bit about why I like the indie track. What I thought was great about My Chem was the fact that when they first got together, you know, it was almost a meeting of the minds that never happened. And then there was like a second chance, and when that second chance was presented, they signed to a local label, Eyeball Records, which, you know, by any stretch of the imagination was certainly nothing big, certainly had no great accolades to its credit, but believed in them enough to put the product out. And by putting the product out, the material was exposed, and as a result of that exposure, they garnered and created a groundswell of interest. And that's ultimately the whole point of the first part of the equation. What then happened is that they realized that they got to a certain point in their careers where that exposure that they'd created as a result of that first venture into releasing product in the marketplace had somewhat stagnated. They'd done lots of shows, they'd built a fan base, they were popular on the internet, they'd done some magazine covers, and their music, their craft as musicians was honed into a strong and somewhat cohesive product. So they felt that it was time to now bring in a bigger player that would take them beyond that first level, and that first level was becoming local heroes. Once they'd done that, they felt they needed to conquer greater markets, and so they needed to go to places like Europe, and they needed to go to the UK, and they needed to come to Australasia and Japan and all that. And that is what happened with a major. And that now brings me to exactly the same equation that I adopt at MPM, which is the highest level of my management, and now the new entity, which is Dead Famous, which is what I call the stepping stone. Every new artist that we sign is going to be signed to 3 different people. There are 3 people, integral people at Dead Famous. And the deal is for 12 months and with a 12-month option. And ultimately, if we can't get you, or we can't fulfill a certain amount of standardized, achievable objectives within that 12-month time frame, then we're going to let you go. We don't believe in locking you up under a contractual agreement in the hope that, hey, the timing will get better the next time we have a go at it. If we can't do it in 12 months, we'll let you go. If in 12 months we get you a deal in the form of a release deal, doesn't have to be with a major or a mini major, can be with an indie, can be with